I have been thinking about doing this for a few days now, and I don't know why it seems so difficult because it's a wonderful thing. It's part of my journey and it's something that I definitely want to share with you, but it just seemed like it wasn't the right time. It seemed like maybe I should write notes. Then it seemed like maybe I shouldn't write notes because I just want to talk to you from my heart, from my spirit about what happened that caused me to really change. So I'm gonna take you on a journey, and I hope that by the end of this journey that you see how things can play out for your favor despite what life is throwing at you. That you see that no vision is too big, that no dream is too big, and that you see that it's not just a matter of following 10 steps, but it's a matter of faith, and it's a matter of mindset shifts, and it's a matter of identity, and it's a matter of purpose, and that the dreams and the goals and the desires that you have are not just for you, but they are for everyone that you care about, everyone that you love, everyone that you are called to serve. So let's go back to 2009. I am pregnant for the second time, and I experienced some bleeding. And of course, it's cause for alarm. So we go to the doctor, and the doctor says, in early pregnancy, this can be normal. Don't worry about it. Everything looks fine. Baby looks fine. I looked fine. And we chalked it up to, my body adjusting, and everything went well with the pregnancy. My daughter is a teenager now, so everything went well. She grew well, she's healthy, she's fine. So she nursed for about a year, and after that year, I noticed that my period didn't really come back like normal. And I did go back on the birth control pill for a while, but for some reason, it just was not agreeing with me. And I also noticed that I would experience bleeding, like breakthrough bleeding, like in the middle of my cycle. So my period usually lasts 8 days, which I know is long, but that was normal for me ever since I was 11 years old. My periods have always been 8 days. I would have a period for 7 days, and then it would completely stop, and then it would come back for 1 day, and that's how it always has been. So I expected it to return to that, and it never did. And I tried multiple prescriptions, different pills. Nothing seemed to work. Some of them didn't regulate my cycle. Some of them actually played with my mind and made me feel like I was going crazy. There's a set of pills that I can't remember the name of the pill, but I threw it away. And I called my doctor and I told him I am never taking these pills again. I felt like I was going to lose my mind. This went on. This is 2011 at this point. And so I'm dealing with the 8 days, but then in between one period and the next period, I would have this bleeding. And sometimes it would be just spotting, and sometimes it would be like 2-3 days, or like an actual period flow. So I said, you know what? I can't remember exactly when I decided to come off birth control completely, but it was difficult. It was hard to go through something where it just seemed like my body was just completely out of control. And years went by, and I eventually came off the pill completely. And I switched doctors so many times. I've seen doctors in different countries, and nobody could tell me what was wrong. Nobody could pinpoint what was happening. And so I started to learn to just manage it. I started to learn to just deal with it. And at this point, I'm bleeding 10 to 15 days out of every month. So I would have a week where it's a normal period, and then I would just have random days in between where there's bleeding. Like I said, it could be spotting or it could be heavier bleeding. And as the years went on, it just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And the crazy thing is, I'm a stay-at-home mom at this point, and I have 2 daughters. They're very young, so they're not at period age or anything like that. And I'm just praying and hoping that this doesn't get passed on to them, you know, whatever it is. Because at this point, I've done so many tests, and everything's coming back normal. Everything looks fine. And nobody can tell me what's wrong with me. And I just wanted a diagnosis. I just wanted to know, okay, this is what it is. This is what it's called. Here's the medicine that you can take, or here's the process that you need to go through so that this thing can be over and done with. It never happened. I want to say this might be 2015. I believe this is before I got pregnant with my last child. Excuse me. I was in Pennsylvania. I had seen a doctor before who said that there were some small fibroids that she saw, like really small. Nothing to be alarmed about. And I thought, yes, oh, it's fibroids, right? By the time I got to Pennsylvania and I saw the other doctor, she said they had resolved. That's the terminology that she used, basically meaning they were going away. So they were not cause for alarm. I've never had fibroids again since then. Show up on anything, show up on any ultrasounds, anything. So I managed to get pregnant in the middle of all this, because you can imagine how tricky things would be. And the thing was that we weren't even trying to get pregnant, and it happened honestly at the worst possible time, because my husband was going away to work overseas for a few years. And this meant that I would be alone for most of the time with 3 children. And that's when it really hit. That's when it really started to get difficult, because I had to show up for them physically. And by this point, I was bleeding heavily, a lot more than I was before. So the spotting turned into actual bleeding. And so my periods would last more like 2 weeks. And I remember in 2021, I created a vision board and in my planner, and you might have seen on one of my videos how to create a vision board inside your planner. And I created that vision board inside my planner, and I remember writing the words complete healing at the top right of that page, where I put all the things that I wanted to see happen in my life for 2021. And in 2021, my word of the year was overcome. And I wanted so badly, more than anything else, to not let this thing get the best of me, because at that point it felt like it had taken over my life. It had taken over my thoughts. It had taken everything away from me. I felt weak. I felt defeated, because I had been praying. I had been going to church every Sunday. I am actually on the part of the dance ministry at my church, and I would dance every single Sunday, and we wore white. And imagine being a woman who's constantly bleeding and wearing white. It was nerve-wracking, to say the least, but I never bled on my clothes. Never. I don't think I have. And I showed up for everything. I did the PTA meetings. I cleaned the house. I took care of the children. I picked them up from school. I drove them to school. I helped with the homework. I did all the things. And inside, I felt anxiety. I felt shame, because it brought up so many feelings that I didn't know were there. Now that I'm looking back on it, and I'm looking back on it as a coach, the signs were there of all the different things that I had gone through in life. I thought, is this some kind of punishment for past sin? I thought all kinds of things. And 2021, I decided to put my faith to work. And that started with stating what I wanted. And I believe the real reason I want to share this is because I see so many women go through difficult things, and it may not be something like what I went through with the perpetual period, but it could be some persistent issue in your life, and you don't admit the desire of your heart, right? You pray for and hope for what you think is reasonable, or what you think is possible. Because in 2021, after 10 years, listen to me, 10 years of bleeding, of not knowing 10 years of always having to use a pad or a panty liner every single day. Like, there was not a day that passed that I was not wearing at least a liner, because I never knew. I never knew when I was going to start bleeding. I never knew when it was going to start. I never knew when it was going to stop. And my life became limited. And I tried to be happy. Have you ever tried to be happy? Like, I don't know how to describe it. You laugh on the outside and you enjoy the moments, but like inside there's a part of you that's like, I just want this to be over. And I started to say that. I started to say that out loud. I just want this to be over. And I think that's when I started to get real about what I wanted in my life. It started with ending the bleeding. And I remember I have a friend who is deeply spiritual, and she is such a dear friend. And she told me, she said, what you are going through is not physical. She said, this is a spiritual issue, and you need to fast and you need to pray. And at that point, I had seen the doctors. Clearly they weren't helping. They were trying, but they weren't helping. I had seen the doctors, and I needed something that was bigger. So I remember one night my husband, he wasn't home. I don't know if he had gone away or if he was just out at the time. I don't know. And I remember I put my praise garments on that I wear when I'm dancing at church. And I danced and I worshiped and I prayed and I cried. I cried so hard. And I think I had been holding those tears back for years. Because I couldn't let myself fall apart, because I had to show up for everyone else. And I tried not to let myself feel the pain of what I was going through. But in not allowing myself to fully feel the pain, I also prevented my own healing. And I honestly believe that that was the night when everything was unlocked. I'm skipping a lot of stuff because it's like it's too much to put into one video, but this was just on my heart to share. And if it reaches one person and if it helps one person, then excuse me, I've done what I'm supposed to do. So in August of 2021, I actually joined a coaching program. And part of this coaching program was, we had various coaches actually. We had multiple coaches. And one of them was a faith coach. We had a branding coach. We had mindset coach, all these different people. And I began a journey with that night of prayer. I began a journey of inner healing, and God started to orchestrate so many open doors in my life, open doors to new relationships, open doors to coaching. Played a big role in getting my mind right and getting my mind prepared. But throughout the coaching, this was August to November, throughout the coaching, I was still bleeding. And I wrote a book. And the book that I link in all my videos, my vision book, I wrote that book while I was in the coaching program. And I decided to launch the book on my birthday. And I'm bringing this up because when I come on here and I talk to you about writing your vision, and I talk to you about journaling your feelings and journaling your thoughts and processing your emotions, in those 10 years from 2011 to 2021, that's what I learned to do. I learned how to process, and it was the craziest thing because I learned how to dream again, and I learned how to fight for what I wanted. And the vision that I had for myself was not to accomplish these 10 goals. I had some of that, but it was more for the woman who I wanted to become and how I wanted to feel. I didn't want to feel empty anymore. I didn't want to feel like just somebody's wife or just somebody's mom. And I have a loving family. It's not that I had a horrible family or anything like that. But I remember having this moment where I thought to myself, I don't know what's wrong with me. None of the doctors can tell me what's wrong with me. All of my tests are coming back normal. Is it that they don't know what to look for? Is it that they just don't know what's happening? What if there's something really wrong? And what if it's killing me? And what if one day I just bleed out and die? What have I done with my life? What have I left for my daughters? What have I left for my son? What have I given the world? Because there was this nagging feeling inside me that I was supposed to establish something, that I was supposed to do something. And I didn't know what it was. And I've always been a creative person. So I started a business where I was sewing bags and making cushions. And I loved it. I really enjoyed it. Every time I made a collection, it sold out. And then I got pregnant with my third child, my son. That was in late 2015, just before my husband left. Well, not left, but went away to work. And that just put a pin in every plan that I made, because I had my girls, and they were doing a lot of stuff, and I had to show up for a lot of stuff. And then I was pregnant, and I was really tired during that pregnancy. I was tired, but at the same time, I had energy. I don't know. It wasn't a horrible pregnancy, but I was doing a lot. And it was hard to, manage sewing and home life, especially with my husband being away as much as he was. So I felt like I didn't have time for myself, right? And I was just functioning the way that I needed to function to keep my family together and, do what I had to do. And I'm sure a lot of women can relate to that. And the 3 daily appointments that I spoke about in a previous video, that was not something that I was doing for myself at that time. So a lot of what I teach, a lot of what I share comes out of personal experience. A lot of it comes out of observation as well. So I know I'm jumping all over the place, but stick with me. So we're now at 2021 and I'm about to launch this book, and I am still looking at that vision board, and I'm still looking at my word of the year, overcome, because my goal was to not let this thing kill me, not let it kill my dream, not let it kill my joy, right? And I knew that the fight that I had in me for those 10 years had created a resilience in my spirit and allowed me to actually become a better person through the pain, through the difficulty, through all the things that I had to overcome. And I wanted to share that, and I wanted to show other people that there's a strategy that they could use, that it's practical, and that it's insightful. And so I wrote this book. It's a very short read, and it's a journal style. So you read and then you implement. You read and then you implement. And I decided to launch it on my birthday. And so the day came, and early that morning, my husband's cousin died on the day that I was gonna launch. And I spent the entire day disillusioned, confused. Like, do I still launch? Is that insensitive? What should I do? And so I didn't make the big hurrah that I was gonna make, because I launched it originally as an ebook. It wasn't even a paper book, it was an ebook when I first launched it. So I think I posted on Instagram, I posted on Facebook, and people did purchase, but it was so low-key. It was like the big balloon got deflated completely. So I launched the book on my birthday, and the very next day, this is October of 2021, the very next day, the bleeding stopped. It just stopped. And so I think I went maybe like 2 months, and then I was like, wait a minute, I haven't had a period. So I took a pregnancy test because I was like, oh my gosh, like, what's going on? And no, I wasn't pregnant. And months went by. I think it was almost a year later that, no, it wasn't. It was August of 2022. I posted a testimony video on my Instagram page talking about giving my testimony about healing and actually believing that I was healed. After 10 years of that amount of bleeding, it was so hard for me to admit that those 2 words that I wrote at the top of my vision board, complete healing, had actually happened. And it didn't sink in, like it didn't hit right away. I didn't immediately grab it right away. And it's just something I tell people to let it be awkward. It felt awkward at first to be healed. I was 46 years old and I no longer had a period. And you know, when I talk to other women, I'm like, oh no, I don't have a period. And they're like, what? Because it's young. And I don't even call it menopause. I have no menopause symptoms. I have none of the flashes and the sweats and none of it. I absolutely believe that God healed me. I absolutely believe that God healed me. And I believe in the power of writing a vision and making it plain and speaking it over your life and embodying that vision and believing that it can happen. Because I've seen it in my own life. And I believe that God orchestrates even our suffering for His glory. I believe that God uses every hardship and every challenge to point us back to Him. And yes, I developed a framework as a result of everything that I went through. And yes, this is a part of why I became a coach, because I know what it's like to be a woman who suffers in silence and has to cover up and has a dream and a desire that she can't even express to other people because they have no idea where that desire came from. And I know how hard it can be to open up to the people in your life who may mean well and who may love you, but don't have the faith that you have. And so they dull your dream and they diminish your dream to the size of their faith. If I had someone like me in my life, I think I would have come to that point much sooner. And I believe that this whole experience was for me to have the compassion that I need to have when I'm talking to a woman who has been through it. And I can tell her from a place of genuine faith, as someone who has walked the journey, that it can happen. So it's been like 34 minutes. I think this is the longest vision vlog that I've ever done. But this is something I've never talked about on my channel. And I just wanted to share it. It's really late. It is almost midnight. and I need to go to bed. So if you made it to the end, comment complete healing. I hope this helps. Blessings on your journey. I'll talk to you soon.